Family dinners at my sister Lydia's house were like watching a slow-motion car crash while being forced to eat overpriced salmon. You knew something terrible was going to happen, but you couldn't look away, and somehow you were always holding a fork when it did. I'm Julian Brooks, 41 years old, and I fix computer networks for companies that pay me well enough to pretend I enjoy small talk about wine pairings. My wife Natalie teaches high school counseling, which means she's professionally trained to spot lies and emotional manipulation. Ironic, considering what I was about to discover. Julian, you're being awfully quiet tonight, Lydia announced from the head of her mahogany dining table, the one that cost more than my car. Everything in Lydia's house cost more than something I owned. The chandelier, the artwork, even the damn napkins probably had a higher thread count than my sheets. Just enjoying the ambiance, I replied, gesturing at the perfectly arranged flowers and candles. Very Martha Stewart meets Architectural Digest. Natalie kicked me under the table, not playfully, hard enough to bruise. Julian's been working late all week, she said, her voice carrying that apologetic tone wives use when their husbands embarrass them. The Henderson account is keeping him busy. Trevor, my brother-in-law, leaned back in his chair with that smug expression he'd perfected over 15 years of marriage to my sister. Must be nice having flexible hours. Investment management keeps me tied to market schedules, but the rewards speak for themselves. He gestured around the dining room like he'd personally funded every stick of furniture. Yes, we're all very impressed by your success, Trevor, I said, taking a sip of wine that probably cost more per bottle than I spend on groceries in a month. My parents sat across from us, Mom picking at her salmon while Dad nodded along to Trevor's latest story about closing some big deal. They'd always preferred Lydia's husband to me. Trevor had the house, the car, the investment portfolio. I had a decent job and a sense of humor they didn't appreciate. Speaking of success, Lydia said, raising her wine glass, Trevor and I have an announcement. Here it comes, I thought. Another vacation to somewhere I couldn't afford, another renovation project, another opportunity for them to demonstrate their superior life choices. We're renewing our vows next month, Lydia beamed. 15 years of marriage deserves a celebration. How wonderful, Mom clapped her hands together. Where are you having the ceremony? The Fairmont Olympic, Trevor said. Nothing but the best for my beautiful wife. I nearly choked on my wine. The Fairmont Olympic. I'd looked into that place for our own wedding 5 years ago. The deposit alone was $12,000. Congratulations, Natalie said, reaching over to squeeze Lydia's hand. You two deserve all the happiness in the world. Something in her voice caught my attention. Too enthusiastic, too bright. I'd heard that tone before, usually when she was lying to her mother about why we couldn't visit for Christmas. Julian helped us with the booking, Trevor said, grinning at me. Put his name on the contract since he knows the event coordinator. I blinked. I'm sorry, what? Don't be modest, Lydia laughed. You said you'd handle the paperwork since you've worked with their tech systems. I had no memory of this conversation. None whatsoever. But Natalie was nodding along, and my parents were smiling at me like I'd finally done something worthwhile. Right, I said slowly. The paperwork. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of small talk and congratulations. I found myself studying faces, looking for tells, trying to figure out what game everyone was playing while I sat there with no cards and no clue about the rules. Dessert arrived, some elaborate chocolate thing that looked like it belonged in a museum. I picked up my fork, took a bite, and immediately dropped it. The silver clinked against the hardwood floor, rolling under the table. Clumsy tonight, I muttered, pushing back my chair. I'll get it, Natalie said quickly. No, I've got it. I bent down, reaching under the table for the fork. That's when I saw them. Trevor's leg pressed firmly between Natalie's knees, her wedding ring catching the light from the chandelier above, glinting as her hand rested on his thigh. Time stopped. The conversation above continued, something about vacation plans and restaurant recommendations, while I crouched under the table, staring at the most intimate betrayal I'd ever witnessed. My wife's legs slightly parted, my brother-in-law's expensive shoe positioned between them like he owned the space. I straightened up slowly, fork in hand. The table went quiet. Trevor was looking directly at me, his expression unreadable. Natalie had gone pale, her hand trembling as she reached for her wine glass. Everything all right, honey? Lydia asked. Fine, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Just fine. Trevor cleared his throat. Julian, why don't we step outside for a few words? I'd like to discuss that Henderson account you mentioned. It wasn't a request. The rain had started while we were inside, turning Lydia's perfect suburban driveway into a mirror that reflected the streetlights like scattered diamonds. Trevor walked ahead of me, his shoulders squared, his expensive suit somehow managing to repel the drizzle while my shirt was already getting soaked. "Nice night," I said, because someone had to break the silence. Trevor turned around, and in the yellow glow of the porch light, I could see he'd dropped the friendly brother-in-law act entirely. "How long have you known?" "Known what exactly?" "Don't play stupid, Julian. It doesn't suit you." I laughed, short and bitter. "You know what doesn't suit me? Finding out my wife and my sister's husband have been playing footsie under the dinner table, but here we are." "It's not what you think." "Really? Because what I think is that you've been screwing my wife, probably in my bed, definitely in my house, while I've been working 60-hour weeks to pay for the life she keeps telling me she deserves." Trevor's jaw tightened. "You don't understand the situation." "Then explain it to me. Use small words." The rain was picking up, drumming against the cars parked in the driveway. Trevor's BMW looked like it had just rolled off the lot. My Honda looked like what it was, a 7-year-old compromise between reliability and affordability. "Natalie and I have a connection," Trevor said finally. "Something real. Something you obviously can't provide." "A connection?" I nodded thoughtfully. "Is that what we're calling adultery now? Because I've been calling it betrayal, but maybe I'm behind on the terminology." "You're going to make this difficult." "Oh, Trevor, I haven't even started making this difficult." He stepped closer, trying to use his height advantage to intimidate me. Trevor was 6'2", broad-shouldered, the kind of guy who probably played football in college and still talked about it at parties. I was 5'10", built like someone who spent more time fixing servers than lifting weights. "Here's what's going to happen," he said, his voice dropping to what I assume he thought was a threatening whisper. "You're going to go back inside, finish dessert, and act like nothing happened. Then you're going to go home and think very carefully about how you want to handle this. And if I don't? Then I'll tell everyone, your parents, your sister, your friends, your coworkers, that you've been unstable lately, paranoid, maybe drinking too much, maybe making up stories about people who care about you." I stared at him for a long moment, rain dripping from my hair. "You think they'll believe you?" "I think I'm a successful investment manager with a spotless reputation, and you're a tech guy with a history of social anxiety who's been acting strange all evening." He had a point. Trevor was good at playing the role of the perfect husband, the reliable provider, the guy who always picked up the check and never forgot anniversaries. I was the sarcastic younger brother-in-law who made awkward jokes and worked in a field most people didn't understand. "There's just one problem with your plan," I said. "What's that?" I pulled out my phone and opened the security app I'd installed 3 months ago. I've got a Ring doorbell camera, motion-activated, cloud storage, timestamps on everything. Trevor's confident expression flickered. "Want to see the highlight reel?" I swiped through the saved videos. "Here's you arriving at my house last Tuesday at 2:15 p.m. I was at the Henderson office until 6. Here's Thursday morning, 9:30 a.m. I was in a client meeting downtown until noon." His face was going white in the porch light. "Oh, and this is my personal favorite," I continued, finding another video. "Last Sunday, while I was at my parents' house helping Dad with his computer. You stayed for 3 hours. 3 hours, Trevor. That's not a quickie, that's a relationship. You can't prove anything with those videos. Maybe not in court. But I don't need a court, do I? I just need a family group chat." Thunder rumbled overhead, and the rain intensified. We were both soaked now, but neither of us moved toward shelter. "What do you want?" Trevor asked. "I want you to understand that I'm not the pathetic cuckold you think I am. I moved my important documents to a storage unit 2 months ago. I've got copies of all our financial records, including the joint accounts Natalie thinks I don't monitor. I know about the credit card she opened in my name. I know about the girls' weekend in Portland that was actually a weekend with you in Seattle." Trevor was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. "See, the thing about being married to a professional counselor is that you learn to read people. And the thing about working in IT is that you learn to track digital footprints. Natalie's been sloppy, and apparently so have you." "You're bluffing." I showed him another screen on my phone, text messages between Natalie and Lydia. "Your wife's been helping cover for you. Tell Julian you're working late again. Make sure he doesn't come home early. We should wait until after his promotion to tell him. He'll be more stable financially." Trevor grabbed for my phone, but I stepped back. Cloud backup, remember? You can smash this phone and I'll still have everything on my laptop, my work computer, and the USB drive in my storage unit." "You bastard." "Actually, my mother's a lovely woman. Unlike your wife, who's been helping you destroy my marriage for the better part of a year." Lightning flashed, illuminating the rage on Trevor's face. For a moment, I thought he might actually take a swing at me. Instead, he turned and walked toward his BMW. "This isn't over," he called over his shoulder. "No," I agreed, watching him fumble with his keys. "It's not." I stood in the rain for another minute, letting the water wash the taste of betrayal out of my mouth. Then I walked back inside to finish dessert. The next morning, I called the Fairmont Olympic. "Good morning, this is Julian Brooks. I need to cancel the event booking for Trevor and Lydia Hines." "Oh, Mr. Brooks, yes, I have that file right here. The vow renewal ceremony for next month. May I ask why you're canceling?" "Family emergency. These things happen." "I'm so sorry to hear that. Now, since you're the primary contract holder, I can process the cancellation, but I should mention that we're past the 30-day notice period. The deposit is non-refundable." "I understand. Please proceed with the cancellation." "Very well. The $12,000 deposit will be forfeited, and I'll send you confirmation via email within the hour." $12,000. Gone. Just like that. I hung up and made coffee, standing in my kitchen in my bathrobe, watching the rain streak down the windows. Natalie had left early for work, or what she claimed was work. These days I wasn't sure about anything she told me. My phone buzzed. Text from Lydia. "Trevor said you two had a good talk last night. Thanks for being understanding." Understanding. That was rich. Another buzz, this one from Natalie. "Love you. See you tonight." I stared at that message for a long time. 3 words that used to mean everything, now just pixels on a screen, as empty as the promises she'd made at our wedding. By noon, I'd crafted the email, simple, direct, devastating. Subject, family update. "Dear everyone, I wanted you all to hear this from me directly, rather than through gossip or speculation. Last night at dinner, I discovered that Natalie has been having an affair with Trevor for approximately 18 months. I have documented evidence, including security camera footage, text messages, and financial records. I've attached some of the relevant materials for your review. Please note that the timestamps on the doorbell camera footage correspond to days when I was verifiably at work or with family. I will be filing for divorce and moving out of the family home this week. I ask that you respect my privacy during this difficult time. Effective immediately, I've canceled the vow renewal ceremony at the Fairmont Olympic. The $12,000 deposit has been forfeited. Julian." I attached 3 video files, a dozen screenshots of text messages, and a PDF of credit card statements showing charges at hotels I'd never been to. The recipients list included my parents, Natalie's parents, both sets of grandparents, our mutual friends, and every member of our extended family who'd been at dinner the night before. I hovered over the send button for exactly 10 seconds. Then I clicked it. My phone started ringing within minutes. First my mother, then Natalie's mother, then my father. I let them all go to voicemail. I had nothing to say that wasn't already in the email. The real fireworks started around 2 p.m. when Natalie apparently checked her phone during lunch break. "Julian, what the hell have you done?" Her voice was shaking with rage and panic. "Call me back immediately. We need to talk about this." The next voicemail came 5 minutes later. "Julian, please. You're misunderstanding the situation. Just call me back and let me explain." Then, "You're destroying our marriage over nothing. Trevor and I are just friends. Those videos don't prove anything." Then, "How could you humiliate me like this? In front of our entire family?" And finally, "Fine. Don't call me back. But you'll regret this. You'll regret making me look like a fool." By evening, I'd received 43 phone calls, 67 text messages, and 12 voicemails. I ignored them all. Instead, I ordered Chinese takeout and started packing. The storage unit I'd rented 2 months ago was already half full with the things that mattered. Family photos from before Natalie, my grandmother's jewelry, my father's watch, my collection of first edition science fiction novels. The practical stuff could wait, but the irreplaceable items were already safe. I was folding clothes into boxes when I heard Natalie's car in the driveway. She burst through the front door like a hurricane, still in her work clothes, her face streaked with tears and mascara. "How could you do this to me?" she screamed. "How could you send that email to everyone we know?" "The same way you could screw my brother-in-law in our bed," I replied, not looking up from my packing. "Turns out we're both capable of things we never thought we'd do." "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like, Natalie? Enlighten me." She sat down hard on the bed, sobbing. "It just happened. We didn't plan it. We were both unhappy, and we found comfort in each other. For 18 months. It wasn't supposed to go on this long. But it did." I closed the box and labeled it with a Sharpie. It did go on this long. And you know what the worst part is? It's not even the intimacy. It's the lying. The elaborate cover stories. The way you made me feel crazy for suspecting something was wrong. I never meant to hurt you. You just meant to betray me quietly until you figured out how to leave me for someone richer. She looked up sharply. That's not... I read the texts, Natalie. Wait until after his promotion. Make sure he's financially stable before we tell him. You weren't protecting my feelings. You were protecting your exit strategy. My phone rang. Lydia's name on the screen. Aren't you going to answer that? Natalie asked. Why would I? So she can explain how helping you cheat on me was actually a favor? The phone stopped ringing, then immediately started again. She's probably calling to tell you that Trevor moved out, Natalie said quietly. I looked at her. What? She kicked him out this afternoon, after she saw the email, after she realized everyone knows. Good for her. Julian, we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work through this. I taped up the box and set it by the door with the others. No, we can't. Why not? Because I don't want to. It was that simple. I didn't want to forgive her. I didn't want to rebuild trust. I didn't want to spend years wondering if she was telling the truth about working late or going out with friends. I didn't want to be married to someone who could look me in the eye every morning for 18 months while betraying me with my own family. I've already talked to a lawyer, I said. You'll get half of everything we built together, which is fair. But I'm done pretending we have a marriage worth saving. She cried harder, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret, no second thoughts. Just the quiet satisfaction of a man who'd finally stopped lying to himself about the woman he'd married. My phone buzzed with a text from my friend Mike. Saw your email. Holy shit, dude. You need a place to crash? I typed back, thanks, but I've got it handled. Drinks tomorrow? Absolutely. You're better off without her. Some people, at least, were on my side. The divorce papers were filed on a Tuesday. By Thursday, I'd moved into a furnished apartment across town, and by Friday, the social media carnage was in full swing. I didn't have to lift a finger. The family group chat had exploded into factions. Team Julian, my parents, most of the cousins, and, surprisingly, Natalie's younger sister, versus Team Natalie, her parents and a few family friends who believed her. It was just emotional support narrative, versus Team Nobody, the smart relatives who stayed out of it entirely. Lydia had gone nuclear on Trevor, or freezing their joint accounts and filing for divorce within a week. She'd also posted a carefully worded Facebook status about betrayal within the family that generated 200 comments and counting. The best part? I didn't have to defend myself. The evidence spoke for itself, but Trevor wasn't going down quietly. Julian. His voice on my voicemail was tight with barely controlled rage. We need to meet. There are things you don't understand about this situation, things that affect more than just you and Natalie. I deleted the message without listening to the rest. The next one came the following day. You think you're so smart with your cameras and your screenshots, but you have no idea what you've started. Call me back. Delete. The third message was different. I know where you work, Julian. I know where you live now. This doesn't end just because you want it to. That one I saved. I also forwarded it to my lawyer, my new landlord's security company, and my boss at the IT firm. If Trevor wanted to escalate this beyond public humiliation, I'd be ready. Meanwhile, Natalie had started her own campaign of harassment. She showed up at my office on a Wednesday afternoon, crying in the lobby until security escorted her out. She called my mother every day, begging her to talk sense into Julian. She even tried to get our mutual friends to stage an intervention. That's where things got interesting. Mike and I were having drinks at our usual bar when Sarah and Jennifer walked in. Sarah had been Natalie's maid of honor. Jennifer was the friend who'd introduced us in the first place. They'd been part of our social circle for years, and I'd assumed they'd take Natalie's side. Julian, Sarah rushed over to our table, her face flushed with righteous indignation. We need to talk. Do we? Yes, we do. What you did to Natalie was cruel and vindictive, sending that email to everyone, humiliating her publicly, destroying her reputation. I documented her affair, I interrupted. I didn't create it. She made a mistake, Jennifer added, sliding into the booth across from me. People make mistakes. That doesn't mean you have to destroy her life. Mike snorted. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. 18 months of screwing your brother-in-law is a lifestyle choice. Stay out of this, Mike, Sarah snapped. This is between friends. Actually, I said, taking a sip of my beer, I think Mike has a point. Let's talk about mistakes versus choices. A mistake is sending a text to the wrong person. A choice is opening a secret credit card in your husband's name to pay for hotel rooms with your lover. Jennifer's face went pale. She didn't. She did. A choice is lying about working late while you're actually in Seattle for the weekend. A choice is convincing your sister-in-law to help you cover up your affair for over a year. You don't understand, Sarah said. Natalie was unhappy. She felt trapped in your marriage. She needed someone who understood her. Then she should have asked for a divorce. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. I leaned forward. Here's what's not simple. Coming home every day to a wife who's pretending to love you while she's texting another man. Wondering why she's suddenly working so many late nights. Feeling like you're going crazy because your own instincts are telling you something's wrong, but the person you trust most in the world keeps telling you you're imagining things? The table went quiet. She gaslighted me for 18 months, I continued. Made me feel paranoid and suspicious for noticing that my own wife was pulling away from me. And you two want me to forgive that because she was unhappy? She loves you, Jennifer said weakly. No, she doesn't. She loves the idea of me, the steady paycheck, the reliable husband, the guy who'll be there to pick up the pieces when her exciting affair falls apart. But she doesn't love me enough to be honest with me, and she sure as hell doesn't love me enough to be faithful to me. Sarah was crying now. You're being so cold. I'm being realistic. And honestly, I'm being kinder to her than she was to me. I could have hired a private investigator and taken photos. I could have confronted her in front of Trevor's coworkers or at a school board meeting. I could have made this a lot messier and more public than one email to family. So what now? Jennifer asked. You just walk away from 5 years of marriage? I walk away from 5 years of lies, I corrected. The marriage ended when she started sleeping with Trevor. I just made it official. Mike raised his beer. To Julian, for having the balls to respect himself. Sarah and Jennifer exchanged glances. We can't support this, Sarah said, standing up. We won't be part of destroying Natalie's life. You're not destroying her life, I replied. You're just choosing sides. And that's fine. Everyone gets to choose. They left without another word. Well, Mike said, watching them go. That was fun. Yeah. Nothing like losing half your friends to really complete a divorce. They're lost, man. Anyone who thinks you should just suck it up and forgive an 18-month affair isn't really your friend anyway. He was right, but it still stung. Sarah and Jennifer had been at our wedding. They'd been to birthday parties and game nights and holiday dinners. Now they were strangers who thought I was the villain in this story. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. This is Trevor. Meet me tomorrow night at Murphy's Bar, 8 p.m. Come alone. We're going to settle this. I showed the message to Mike. You're not actually going, are you? Oh, I'm absolutely going. Julian, don't worry. I'm not going to do anything stupid. But I am going to finish this. I had one more card to play, and Trevor had just given me the perfect opportunity to use it. Murphy's Bar was the kind of place where middle-aged men went to drink away their problems while watching sports on screens that hadn't been updated since the Clinton administration. The lighting was dim, the music was loud enough to cover conversations, and the bartender had perfected the art of minding his own business. Perfect for a confrontation. Trevor was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with a whiskey in front of him. He looked like hell, unshaven, rumpled shirt, the kind of exhaustion that comes from having your entire life implode in the span of a week. You came, he said as I slid into the booth across from him. Curiosity killed the cat. What do you want, Trevor? He took a long sip of whiskey before answering. I want you to call off the dogs. What dogs? Lydia's lawyer is trying to take me for everything I'm worth. She's claiming emotional trauma, public humiliation, breach of trust. She wants the house, the cars, half my investment portfolio, and alimony. Sounds fair to me. It's not fair. I built that life. I earned that money. She's been a housewife for 15 years, contributing nothing to our financial success, and now she wants to take it all because of one mistake. I laughed. One mistake? Trevor, you were screwing my wife for a year and a half. That's not a mistake. That's a hobby. His jaw tightened. You don't understand what it was like. Lydia and I haven't been happy for years. We were basically roommates. And Natalie, she was so lonely, so neglected by you. Stop right there. I held up a hand. Don't you dare try to make this my fault. If Natalie was unhappy, she could have talked to me about it. If you were unhappy with Lydia, you could have gotten a divorce. Instead, you both chose to lie and cheat and drag everyone else into your mess. You could have handled this privately. Talked to us like adults and worked something out. Like what? A schedule? Tuesdays and Thursdays with Natalie? Weekends with your wife? Trevor's face flushed red. You think you're so clever, don't you? So morally superior. But you're just a bitter, vindictive little man who can't stand that someone else could make his wife happy. Happy? I leaned forward. Is that what you think this was about? Making her happy? because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you were both just using each other to avoid dealing with your real problems. Natalie loves me. Natalie loves the idea of you. The money, the status, the excitement of sneaking around. But love? Real love? That requires honesty, Trevor, something neither of you seems capable of. He finished his whiskey and signaled for another. What do you want from me? Nothing. I want nothing from you. Bullshit. Everyone wants something. Name your price. I stared at him across the table. This man who'd been part of my family for 15 years, who'd sat at my dinner table and made jokes and pretended to care about my life while he was systematically destroying it. You really don't get it, do you? I said finally. This isn't about money or revenge or getting even. This is about consequences. For 18 months, you and Natalie acted like your choices existed in a vacuum, like your lies and betrayals wouldn't affect anyone else. Well, surprise, they did. So what? You're going to ruin both our lives over it? I'm not ruining anything. I'm just not protecting you from the natural consequences of your own actions. Trevor's second whiskey arrived. He downed half of it in one gulp. There's something else, he said, his voice dropping. Something you don't know about Natalie. I'm sure there's a lot I don't know about Natalie. That's what happens when your wife lives a double life. She's pregnant. The words hit me like a physical blow. I felt the air leave my lungs, felt the room tilt slightly around the edges. What? She's pregnant, about 3 months along. I did the math quickly. 3 months ago, Natalie and I were still having intimacy occasionally, though not often. 3 months ago, she was also deep into her affair with Trevor. Is it mine? Trevor's silence was answer enough. Jesus Christ. I put my head in my hands. Does she know you're telling me this? She wanted to tell you herself. She's been trying to reach you for days. To tell me she's pregnant with your baby. To tell you she's pregnant and ask you to consider raising the child as your own. I looked up at him. Are you out of your mind? Think about it, Julian. You wanted kids. Natalie wants kids. This could be your chance. To raise my cheating wife's bastard child with my brother-in-law. To pretend for the rest of my life that everything's fine while I look at a kid who's a daily reminder of how you both betrayed me. It doesn't have to be like that. How exactly would it be, Trevor? Would you be Uncle Trevor who comes to birthday parties and soccer games? Would Lydia be the aunt who knows her ex-husband fathered her brother-in-law's wife's child? Would we all just pretend this is normal? He didn't answer. Here's what's going to happen, I said, standing up. You're going to take responsibility for your child. You're going to pay child support. You're going to be a father, whether you want to or not. And you're going to leave me the hell alone. Julian, wait. No, we're done here. We're done forever. I walked out of Murphy's bar and into the cold night air, my mind reeling. Pregnant, with Trevor's child, wanting me to raise it as my own. The audacity was breathtaking. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at the neon beer signs in the bar's windows, trying to process what I'd just learned. Then I pulled out my phone and called my lawyer. Jim, it's Julian Brooks. I need to accelerate the divorce proceedings, and I need to add a paternity test requirement to the settlement. What happened? My wife is pregnant with my brother-in-law's child, and she wants me to play daddy. A long pause. Jesus, Julian, how do you want to handle this? By the book, clean, legal, final. I want this marriage dissolved before that baby is born, and I want it documented that I'm not the father. Consider it done. I hung up and started the car. Tomorrow, I'd have to deal with Natalie's phone calls and tears and desperate attempts to convince me that we could make this work somehow. Tomorrow, I'd have to face the reality that my marriage hadn't just been a lie, it had produced a living, breathing consequence that would complicate everyone's lives for the next 18 years. But tonight, I was just going to drive home to my quiet apartment, pour myself a drink, and marvel at the spectacular wreckage of the life I'd thought I was living. The funny thing about betrayal is that you think you've hit rock bottom when you discover it. You think the worst part is the initial shock, the moment when your world tilts and nothing makes sense anymore. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is everything that comes after. The layers of deception you keep uncovering, the depth of the lies, the realization that the person you trusted most in the world wasn't just unfaithful, they were actively rewriting reality to accommodate their betrayal. And sometimes, if you're really unlucky, they create a new life that will serve as a permanent reminder of everything they destroyed. Now, I parked in front of my apartment building and looked up at the windows of my new home. Small, furnished, temporary, but honest. No secrets, no lies, no hidden cameras needed to verify what was happening in my own life. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The paternity test results arrived on a Thursday morning, delivered by certified mail to my lawyer's office. I didn't need to open the envelope to know what it said. Trevor's confession at Murphy's bar had been confirmation enough, but I wanted it documented, official, legally binding, not the father, as expected. What I hadn't expected was the phone call that came an hour later. "Julian, it's Jim. We need to talk. Can you come to my office?" "What's wrong?" "Just come to the office. There's something else." I found my lawyer sitting behind his desk with a stack of papers and an expression I couldn't read. "The paternity test confirmed what we already knew," he said without preamble. "You're not the father, but there's something else, something that came up during the financial discovery process." He slid a document across the desk. Bank statements, credit reports, loan applications. "Natalie took out a life insurance policy on you 6 months ago, $500,000. She forged your signature." I stared at the papers. "What?" "It gets worse. She also applied for a personal loan using your credit, claiming it was for home improvements. The money was deposited into a joint account she opened with Trevor." The room felt like it was spinning. "How much?" $75,000. Jesus Christ. "There's more. She's been systematically transferring money from your joint savings account into the account she shares with Trevor. Small amounts spread out over months, but it adds up to almost $20,000. I sat down heavily in the chair across from his desk. She was planning to kill me. "We don't know that for certain. Jim, she took out a life insurance policy on me without my knowledge, stole money from our joint accounts, and got pregnant with another man's child while asking me to raise it as my own. What other explanation is there?" He didn't answer, which was answer enough. "What are my options?" "Criminally? Fraud, forgery, identity theft. We can file charges. Civilly? We can sue for recovery of the stolen funds plus damages, and we can make sure the divorce settlement reflects her criminal behavior." "Do it, all of it." "Julian, are you sure? This will get ugly. Very ugly." "It's already ugly, Jim. I'm just tired of pretending it's not." I left the lawyer's office and drove straight to the police station, filed a report for identity theft and fraud, gave them copies of all the documents, all the evidence, all the proof of Natalie's systematic betrayal. Then I went home and waited. The call came that evening, Natalie sobbing, hysterical. "Julian, please, you have to listen to me. This is all a misunderstanding. I can explain everything." "Explain the life insurance policy." I thought we should have more coverage, in case something happened to you." "Explain forging my signature." "I knew you'd say no, and I was trying to protect our future." "Explain the $75,000 loan." Silence. "Explain the money you stole from our savings account." More silence. "That's what I thought," I said, and hung up. The next call came from Trevor. "You bastard," he snarled. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Enlighten me." "Natalie's been arrested. They came to her school, Julian. In front of her coworkers, in front of her students. They handcuffed her and led her away like a common criminal." "She is a common criminal. She committed fraud and identity theft." "Over money that would have been hers anyway in the divorce." "No, Trevor. Over money she stole while planning to cash in on my death. There's a difference." "You're insane if you think—" "I'm not thinking anything. I'm just following the evidence. Life insurance policy taken out without my knowledge. Forged signatures. Systematic theft from joint accounts. What conclusion would you draw?" The line went quiet. "She would never hurt you," he said finally, but his voice lacked conviction. "Maybe not. Maybe she was just planning to leave me broken while she ran off with you and my money. Maybe the life insurance policy was just, what did she call it? Protecting our future. Julian? But here's the thing, Trevor. I don't care what her intentions were. I care what her actions were. And her actions were criminal. What do you want?" "I want you both to face the consequences of your choices. I want Natalie to go to jail for fraud. I want you to pay child support for the baby you created. And I want both of you to leave me the hell alone." "And if we don't?" "Then I'll keep digging. And trust me, if I've found this much dirt in a week of looking, there's probably more. Want me to find out what else you've been up to?" He hung up. I poured myself a drink and sat on my couch, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Natalie was probably sitting in a jail cell, finally facing the reality of what she'd done. Somewhere else, Trevor was probably panicking about what other secrets might come to light. And here I was, alone in my apartment, finally free. My phone buzzed. Text from Mike. "Heard about Natalie's arrest. Holy shit, dude. You okay?" I typed back, "Better than okay. Justice is a hell of a drug. Want to grab a drink? Celebrate your freedom? Rain check. I'm enjoying the quiet. And I was. For the first time in years, my phone wasn't buzzing with lies disguised as love. My home wasn't hiding secrets in every corner. My bank accounts weren't being systematically drained by someone I trusted. The silence was beautiful. My laptop chimed with an email from my boss. Julian, heard about your situation through the grapevine. Take all the time you need to get your personal life sorted out. Also, the Henderson contract was so successful that we're promoting you to senior consultant. Congratulations, and hang in there. I laughed out loud. After months of Natalie telling me I wasn't ambitious enough, wasn't successful enough, wasn't providing enough for our future, I'd gotten the promotion she'd been pushing me toward. Too bad she wouldn't be around to enjoy it. Another email, this one from Lydia. Julian, I owe you an apology. I should never have helped them lie to you. I was protecting the wrong person, and I'm sorry. If you need anything, please let me know. I stared at that message for a long time. Lydia had been complicit in the affair, had helped cover for Natalie and Trevor, had participated in the gaslighting that made me question my own sanity for months. But she'd also lost her husband, her marriage, and her social standing when the truth came out. She'd paid a price for her choices, just like everyone else. I typed back, "Thanks for the apology. I hope you find someone who deserves you." It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was acknowledgement that we were all just people, making bad choices and living with the consequences. The last email was from my mother. Sweetheart, your father and I are proud of how you've handled this situation. It couldn't have been easy to discover what Natalie was really doing, but you did the right thing. We love you. I closed the laptop and finished my drink. Outside, the city hummed with the lives of 8 million people, most of whom were probably dealing with their own betrayals, their own secrets, their own complicated relationships. But not me, not anymore. For the first time in years, my life was exactly what it appeared to be. Simple, honest, and entirely my own.